something that replaces washing. Now, in the Sharia, it means something very specific, especially in this context, which is that it is a form of purification for a person that does not have access to water. The access can be because of lack of being able to reach it, or because of its harm that it will cause a person. So the first thing he says is that the musafir, the person who's traveling, is allowed to make tayammum as long as the trip is not one by which a person intends an act of disobedience. I mean, if an act of disobedience should happen in the trip, that's one thing, but there's a difference between, I don't know, going to visit your uncle in a different state, and then on the way there, a person heedlessly cusses or does something haram in the middle. That wasn't the point of going. It just kind of happened. There's a difference between that and between actually saying, oh, look, I'm going to go visit my friend in another state and smoke weed with him. Or I'm going to visit my uncle in another state and smoke weed with him, for that matter. As long as the haram thing is the intention, then all of the rukhas that have to do with travel, they fall by the wayside. They're no longer valid. Why? Because there's no aid in the ma'siyah. There's only aid in a person doing something that's at least mubah. It's at least permissible. And so the reason the musafir is mentioned is because out of all of the people who are eligible to make tayammum, going on a trip is something that's kind of elective. You don't have to do it. Whereas, being so ill that you cannot use water, or not having water at all, those are not elective issues. Those are issues that are, beyond someone's control. So the marid, the ill person can perform tayammum for both the fard and for the nafilah, for the obligatory and non-obligatory prayers. ويتيمم الحاضر الصحيح للفرائض إذا خاف خروج وقتها عفوا. That the person who is a resident and is healthy, neither sick nor a traveler, they can make tayammum if they're not able to find a source of water by which to purify themselves. If they're afraid that the time of the prayer is going to expire. ولا يتيمم الحاضر الصحيح لنافلة ولا جمعة ولا جنازة إلا إذا تعينت عليه الجنازة. It says that the person who is a resident in their home but short on water and who's in good health, that person doesn't make tayammum for nawafil, nor does that person make tayammum for jumu'ah. Rather, they make tayammum and pray dhuhr, nor do they make tayammum for a janaza, except for إذا تعينت. If you're the wali of the mayyit and you're expected to lead, then you can make tayammum for it, and you can't find water with which to purify yourself. So that's another mas'ala that's, I guess, can be talked about in further detail during discussion about janais, which are not in this book, but the person who should be the imam of a janazah should be the person who's the closest male relative. Why? Because the closest person is the one who is going to make the most sincere dua for the mayyit, and it'll have the most effect. Whereas I think in some other schools, the janazah just goes to whoever the imam, the ratib imam, the masjid is. In the Mālikī school, you don't even do janazah in the masjid. It's actually mustahab to, it's valid if you do it in the masjid, but it's mustahab to do it at the graveyard. So that's another mechanical difference between the different schools. But at any rate, so who's the wali of the mayyit? It's the father, unless there's a husband present, and then it's the husband unless there's a son present, then it's the son. The son takes priority over even the father, because that's his mother. The husband the husband takes priority over the son, possibly. وفرائض التيمم النية والصعيد الطاهر ومسح الوجه ومسح اليدين إلى الكوعين وضربة الأرض الأولى والفور ودخول الوقت واتصاله بالصلاة. The fara'id, the obligatory elements of tayammum, are the intention, like all acts of worship, that there should be an intention concomitant with the beginning of the act. وَالصَّعِيدُ الطَّاهِرُ, and that sa'id means, here in this case, it means like earth, and it means whatever's on the surface of the earth. So it could be a number of different things. He'll mention them. But it's whatever's naturally on the surface of the earth, and he'll mention the different types of sa'id that are valid, right? Sa'id, that means what? It means to go up. So it's whatever's like on the surface of the earth. At-tahir, it has to be pure, so it can't be something that, like, I don't know, a person urinated on or something like that. So that's a rukun, an essential element of a valid tayammum. And wiping the face and wiping the two hands to the wrists. وَضَرْبَةُ الْأَرْضِ الْأُولَى, and to tap the earth the first time. وَالْفَوْرُ, and that there should not be a gap in between the steps of the tayammum, just like with wudu and with ghusl. There shouldn't be a gap in between that's excessively lengthy, and it's the same standard, whatever time it takes for the limbs to dry out on a normal day. So I would say something between 2 or 3 minutes. وَدُخُولُ الْوَقْتِ, and that the tayammum for a prayer has to be when the time of that prayer enters. So for example, if you're going to make tayammum for Maghrib comes in at like what, 7? You can't make tayammum for at 6:59. You have to wait until the Maghrib comes in and you don't have any water or are unable to use the water, then you can make tayammum for it. So dukhulul waqt, the time of the prayer has to come in, and wattisaluhu bis salah, and you have to pray right after making the tayammum. You can't just make tayammum and then like do other stuff and then afterward pray later on. So in that sense, tayammum is not like wudu in the sense that you get wudu and you carry the state with you. Tayammum is like a little packet. You open it and use it and it's done. It's like the difference. So maybe like wudu is like a bottle of ketchup. You buy it, take it home, use it for quite some time, and then when it's done, you have to get another one, right? Whereas the tayammum is like the little ketchup packet. Every time, every burger, even one visit, you have to use several of them for every burger or hot dog or whatever other things that you guys eat. By the way, ketchup is ghastly. I don't put ketchup on anything, but it's just the analogy. I guess maybe I could have said mustard. Mustard is a lot better for you, but anyhow, that's neither here nor there. الصعيد هو التراب والطوب والحجر والثلج والخضخاض ونحو ذلك ولا يجوز بالجص المطبوخ والحصير والخشب والحشيش ونحوه ورخص للمريض في حائط الحجر والطوب إن لم يجد مناولا غيره. So what is sa'id? What constitutes sa'id, earth for this matter? It's dirt or dust. It's tub, like clay. The word tub is actually a cognate for the word Adobe. Not like Adobe Acrobat Reader or like whatever, but the thing that's named after, which is like the kind of mud clay bricks that they make stuff out of. So a tub is basically like a cognate. It's the same word. And rock, and snow or ice, and mud and things like that. You can't make tayammum from baked jip, nor from a woven straw mat, nor from wood, nor from grass or the like. Why? Because those things are not actually earth. Anything that's like anyhow modified fired, burned, polished, you can't make it anymore from that. So for example, they have like in masajid, they have like polished, fired, polished, and glazed like tiles and things like that. It no longer works anymore. But if you see the raw tile surface, you can make it from that. But actually, that's again if it's unbaked. If it's baked, that's it. You can't make tayammum from it. It can't be altered. It has to be in this normal earth form. Yeah. Hmm? One is baked, one is not. The tube that he's mentioning, he means something raw and unbaked. Yeah. You can make things. You can make it without the big clay, like the big massages that they have, like in Mali and things like that. Those are not baked. Those are they're dried, but they're not baked, right? So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the unbaked clay. Yeah. ورخص للمريض في حائط الحجر والطوب إن لم يجد مناولا غيره. So there's a dispensation for a sick person. So like if you're sick and you're indoors, you can't just go outside and grab a rock, right? So there's a rukhsa, there's a dispensation that if there's some dust on the wall, or if there's some rock in the wall, like a piece of rock that's part of the wall, like sometimes with concrete, you see that they mix rocks in it and things like that. Or if there's some clay, unbaked clay, the wall is made of unbaked clay or whatever, then it's okay for them to use that if they don't find someone to bring them something from outside. So the fara'id of tayammum again: niyyah, the intention; 2, the use of pure earth; 3, wiping the face; 4, wiping the hands to the wrists; 5 is the first strike of the earth; 7 is that you should have there should be continuity between its elements; 8 is that the time of the prayer for which it's being made has to have come in; and 9 is that the prayer that you're going to pray with that tayammum has to be immediately after making that tayammum. There can't be a gap in there. So those are 9 fara'id he lists. وَالسُّنَنُهُ, and the sunnah mu'akkada, the kind of the very important elements of the tayammum without which it's deficient and worth doing over again, even though it's minimally valid. تجديد الصعيد ليديه والمسح بين الكوعين والمرفقين والترتيب. So using or tapping the earth a second time, using different dust or different earth for wiping one's arms, and wiping from not just the hands up until the wrists, but adding from the wrists all the way to the elbows, and then doing everything, all the fara'id in order. So that's 1, using new earth; 2, using new earth for wiping the arms; 2, wiping between the arms, including the hands, but also extending all the way out from the wrist to the elbows; and then 3 is doing the fara'id in order, which is that you should first wipe the face and then you wipe the hands. We mentioned this last week in Dars, that wiping is done singularly, whereas washing is done in sets of 3. So a person will, the way a person should make the tayammum is, imagine if I have some dirt in front of me, you tap the earth lightly, and then you kind of hit your hands together in order, because the point is not to actually rub dirt in your face, right? You kind of get rid of you kind of dust off whatever the particles are, and then you wipe your face. How many times? Once, because wipes are once. washes are 3 times. Then a person, again, will touch the earth the second time and then kind of hit their hands together to dust them off, hit their thumbs together to dust it off. And then with the right hand, with the left hand, wipe the arm, including the hands. And then with the right hand, then do the left. And so you can start from the fingers and go all the way back. You can start from the front, back, go all the way forward. Obviously, I haven't watched it, move it up and down a little bit. But the point is that this much of the tayammum is fard, and then the rest of it is a sunnah mu'akkada. And that's the sunan. وفضائله التسمية وتقديم اليمنى على اليسرى وتقديم ظاهر الذراع على باطنه ومقدمه على مؤخره. And so the fada'il, the lesser meritorious acts of tayammum is to say Bismillah before you start, number 1. Number 2, to do the right arm over before the left. Number 3 is to do the top of the forearm before doing the bottom of it, and to do the front part of it before doing the back part. So wipe from front to back. Yes, you had a question?
So for the hands, it's just on the palms of your hands? You don't have to...
No, you do both sides. Yeah. Touch. And then with the right arm, you do with the left hand you do the right arm first, and then you do with the right hand you do the left arm. Go ahead.
What if there's visible tawab or dust on something that you're not allowed to use? When could you be able to use it?
If you find nothing else, then it works. But the dust, not all dust is the same either, right? If it's like dust from like dirt, that's one thing. But if it's just dander from like non-earthen sources, it's problematic. Nawaqiduhu, what are the things that invalidate tayammum? Kal wudu'i. So everything that invalidates wudu also invalidates tayammum. وَلَا تُصَلَّى فَرِيضَتَانِ بِتَيَمُّمٍ وَاحِدٍ. And 2 fard prayers are not to be prayed with 1 tayammum. وَمَنْ تَيَمَّمَ لِفَرِيضَةٍ جَازَ لَهُ النَّوَافِلُ بَعْدَهَا. Whoever makes tayammum for a particular prayer, the nawafil that are directly connected with that prayer after it are permissible. You can pray them in the same tayammum. So what are the prayers that has nawafil after it? Fajr? No. Dhuhr? Yes. Asr? No. Maghrib? Yes. Isha? Yes. مس المصحف والطواف والتلاوة إن نوى ذلك. It also permits a person to touch the mushaf. Again, this is in the absence of water or the inability to use water. Like you have someone who has like burns all over. I guess, mashallah, this is one of the reasons you should learn fiqh, because I know some brothers, mashallah, super taqwa, super duper taqwa. They're like, yeah, I'm going to go to Jannah, son, I don't care what it takes. And it's, and then they're going to tell somebody else, or they themselves are going to do something that like kills them or cause them a lot of taklif, which is fine. Like, it's okay, it's good. That's a great, super taqwa is great. That's a great mindset to have, right? But remember that making sacrifice when it's necessary is valuable. Just sinking your own ship because you're an idiot is not. Of course, Allah Ta'ala rewards people based on their intention, and not everybody is the sharpest tool in the shed, but we should aspire to be sharper than we are. So, at any rate, for some person, they need to be able to touch the mushaf, so they can make tayammum for that as well. Or to make tawaf, or to recite the Quran for a person who's in janaba, like after sexual relations or whatnot, and they're not finding water. So tayammum is a substitute for both wudu and ghusl. There's a fun hadith about Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu and Sayyidina Ammar bin Yasir radiallahu ta'ala anhuma, that the two of them were out in the path of Allah ta'ala together, and they slept, and both of them woke up like in the middle of nowhere, like in the desert, and they both found themselves in a state of janaba, had to make ghusl, and obviously there's no water. So they're like, what are we supposed to do? So Sayyidina Ammar bin Yasir, he said, I'm going to go far away out into the desert where you can't see me, where no one can see me, and then I'm going to roll around in the dirt. So made like analogy that I'm going to make like a ghusl of tayammum, right? And tamarruh, basically, like, the word is literally like tayammum is to like go out of your way with great difficulty to act like you have water. Tamarruh is to like basically act like a murgh. Murgh is a Persian word meaning chicken or bird. Like birds, they roll around in the dirt and things like that. So he's like, I'm going to do that. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu was like, yeah, no, I think tayammum is enough. And so he made tayammum and prayed. And then the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, both of them told him what happened. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam praised Ammar bin Yasir for his thoroughness and his like avidness to like, do what's right. Above and beyond the call of duty. And then he praised Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu for essentially doing the right thing, which is what you just make wudu. So somebody who's in janaba and needs to, wishes to recite Quran, they can, and they can't find water, can't use water, they can go ahead and make tayammum for that. He says, innawa dhalika wattasalat bis salati. As long as the intention for all those things was there, and it's also contiguous with the fard prayer. وَلَمْ يَخْرُجِ الْوَقْتِ, and the prayer is still in. وَجَازَ بِتَيَمُّمِ النَّافِلَةِ كُلُّ مَا ذُكِرَ إِلَّا الْفَرِيضَةِ. If a person makes tayammum with the intention of praying a nafil prayer, all of those things also are permissible except for the fard, because you didn't make the tayammum with the intention of making fard halal. Again, who's the one who is allowed to make tayammum for nafil? The traveler and the sick person. If a person is a resident in Makkah Mukarram or a person is a resident somewhere, then you can't make tayammum for nafila. So keep that in mind. وَمَنْ صَلَّى الْعِشَاءَ بِتَيَمُّمٍ, whoever prayed Isha for tayammum, قَامًا لِلشَّفْعِ وَالْوَتْرِ بَعْدَهَا مِنْ غَيْرِ تَأْخِيرٍ. That person should get up and pray their shaf' and witr after their Isha without delay between the two of them. وَمَنْ تَيَمَّمَ مِنْ جَنَابَةٍ فَلَا بُدَّ مِنْ نِيَّتِهَا. A person who makes tayammum in order to remove themselves from the state of janaba, they have to intend the tayammum to be a removal from the state of janaba. So it's a different tayammum to substitute for wudu and a different tayammum intention to substitute for ghusl. The tayammum is the same, but the intention is different. So there's a bunch of masail regarding tayammum here that are not covered, but I'll go ahead and mention them. So there's a number of reasons a person might make tayammum. One is, for example, they don't have water, and someone is selling water, but it's like at some exorbitant rate. They're not required to buy it. If it's a normal rate, then they're required to buy it. But if it's some exorbitant rate, they're not required to buy it. What is a reason for making tayammum? If, for example, the water is there, the well is there, that a person can get water from, or a fountain, or whatever source of water, but like you see like some sort of like wild animal, crazy wild animal there, and you fear it's gonna harm you, or you see like some criminal type people over there, and you fear you're gonna like get jumped or get jacked. These are all also reasons. The person who is making tayammum because they can't find water. There are different circumstances that they're in. So the person who has given up hope of finding water, for that person, it is recommended for them to make tayammum and pray in the beginning of the time. For the person who has hope that they might find water, but has fear that they won't find it, for them it's recommended for them to wait until half of the time, the Mukhtaṣar time, and then afterward, if they don't find the water, just go ahead and pray. The person who holds out hope that they might find water will wait all the way until the end of the prayer time, until basically they have only enough time to make tayammum and pray, or something similar to that. And then at that time they'll make tayammum and pray, unless they find water before that. This is taken from the nas of the Risalat ibn Abi Zayd al-Qayrawani rahimahullah tabarak wa ta'ala. But in all of these cases, the person who had given up hope that they'll find water, if they find water later on through some sort of like really long shot or unexpected means, they don't have to make up their prayer, and they're not recommended to make up their prayer. If a person thought it's like a toss-up and they find the water later on, or for example like the wild animals or thugs that are guarding the well or whatever go away, and they had made tayammum and already prayed, for such people it's recommended for them to pray, repeat the prayer in the time, but in no case, remember, recommended means that you don't have to make it up. So they don't have to make it up. The sick person, obviously the person who is like not able to use water without harming themselves, either because like the coldness of it is possibly gonna make them more sick or prolong their sickness, or might even kill them, or like a person who's like a burn victim who can't even use the water aslan. For them, obviously they just make tayammum in the beginning of the time and they don't make it up afterward, because the presence or lack there of the water it's irrelevant to the issue. Yeah.
For the traveler, can he pray Akhḍarī with
Hmm?
For the traveler,
Yeah.
can he pray Akhḍarī with
You mean, can he pray a fard prayer with the tayammum?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone can pray the fard prayer with the tayammum. The only thing that's different between the person who's not a traveler and the person who's a traveler, the person who's not a traveler cannot pray the nawafil with the tayammum. Whereas the traveler and the sick person can pray both the fara'id and the nawafil. The reason, I don't know if this is why you're confused, but the reason for the differentiation between them is that when you're in your place of residence, you should be more resourceful and be able to figure these things out. So the rukhsa is more like kind of like focused. It's more like narrow in its focus, whereas it's a little bit wider for the traveler, because you're out there and you don't know where to get water from. So this is a personal story about tayammum, which I remember for the whole rest of my life. Is that we were in Mauritania. I was riding. What they do basically is they have a Hilux. Toyota Hilux is what they call a Tacoma over there. And so they there's like whatever, 3 seats and 4 seats, 5 seats inside that they cram like 17 people in or whatever. And then what they do in the bed of the truck is all filled with stuff, and then they put like a rope on top of the stuff, and they just seat as many people on top of that as possible, and you just kind of hold on for dear life to the rope. Because you're not like driving on the freeway much of the time, you're like on the side of a mountain for much of it. And you guys did this ride before? Yeah? MashaAllah. Look at this, MashaAllah. You from New York City, huh? You can act like you West African and talk about Mafe, but MashaAllah. How about you, huh? Oh man, MashaAllah. He's like the Prince of Senegal or something like that. They probably bring a Land Cruiser for you, MashaAllah. No. Yeah. Okay. I thought maybe you were hillbilly. That's why I thought no. MashaAllah. You should try it out. It builds character. Anyhow, so I was riding on the back of one of them one time, and so they all stopped for Fajr in the middle of nowhere, right? And the Mauritanians are accustomed to water not being present everywhere all the time, So they didn't, I mean, they just stopped somewhere and they're like, okay, this is a good place to pray, let's stop and pray. So all of them just, do their, they're just doing their tayammum and, like whatever. And, and I'm like, no, man, I'm gonna go super taqwa, man. I'm gonna find that water. Because there's shops, maybe I'll buy the water and it'll like, what is it to me, like ugiya, like, I spend a couple hundred ugiyas on like a bottle of water, but like I'm gonna do it like super taqwa, right? I'm gonna do it what? Super taqwa, right? And then what happens is I'm so engrossed in looking for water. So engrossed in looking for water. Then I see there's the jerry cans in the back of the truck, right? Like, I'll ask the owner, like, if he'll let me use his water, right? This big plastic, whatever. And I'm like, nah, what if he says no? I'm just going to use it and then I'll compensate him if he gets upset afterward. And so I thought I was real smart. Taqwa, smart. Oh, man, what a combination, Where are you going to find someone like me? And so I just tipped the thing over my thing, put it on my face. Halfway, like, while wiping it on my face, right? And like, man, this is not water. This is something else. This is like diesel up in my face. And there's the best part is you can't wash it out because there's no water anywhere. And like, it's hot outside. It's just, anyway, I totally got what I deserved. And now I'm like freakishly like running to and fro looking for water. And I just like in the middle of like just looking, I realized the sun has been up for like at least 10-15 minutes. And then I'm like, this is like such a fail on so many levels. The Sharia allows you to make tayammum. So I was like, I'm just dumb. So I ended up making tayammum and just praying real quick and being like the last guy to get going, afterward. But the point is like, yes, super taqwa is great, but like, don't let it exceed like the boundaries of it, what it makes sense within. If you let it exceed any sort of rational bound, then you're going to end up making a fool of yourself, and you don't get reward for that. You're just done. You just have to make tawbah and say, Ya Allah, like I try not to do that again. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is this referring to the person that who does not make this intention when he's making the first tayammum?
Read the where are you reading from?
Sorry,
Yeah. So a person can make tayammum for tawaf or for touching the mushaf or for reciting Quran, as long as that was part of their intention in their tayammum that they did for nafila or for a farida, as long as they included that in their intention. Yeah. No, I mean you make tayammum for prayer, either fard or nafila, and then you'd have to do those things connected with the salat, or at least that's what the indication of this particular text is. Yeah. You have to make the intention for it, not a specific tayammum, but just include it in your intention. Yeah, if you make it for the fara'id, you make it with the intention of doing all those things, and then the nawafil that are connected to a farida, then you can pray them in the same tayammum. Yeah. And then these other things as well, you can do them in the same tayammum, but you have to include them in your intention. Yeah.
If you don't know, you read Quran after, yourself after, you have to make tayammum again for that action.
For nafila, and then pray the nafila, and then pray for the make the intention for the nafila and reciting Quran, and then pray the nafila and then recite the Quran after it. This is the indication of this particular text.
So you have to pray in order to do it, right?
This is the indication of this particular text. Sallallahu ta'ala ala Rasulih Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Well, inshallah, go ahead and take a break, and then we'll continue. We'll pray Maghrib, and then we'll continue afterward reading the ahkam of hayd.